Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I am Kelly Norton, known as the AZ Realty Lady. I'm also the owner of the Arizona Living Group and an associate broker here at eXp Realty. And today I'm going to have Zach Meredith. He is an insurance agent with Comparion Insurance Company. And we are going to be doing kind of an open dialogue, Q&A, having him answer some of the common questions that I'm getting from our viewers and from our current purchasers. So stay tuned for today's video. This is going to be very informational for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Norton, your AZ Realty Lady at eXp Realty. Count on me for all things Arizona real estate. Hey guys, welcome back. All right, well, we have Zach Meredith here. Zach, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Zach Meredith. I'm an independent agent over here at Comparion Insurance Company over in Peoria. I'm here to help you out with your home, auto, and any other lines of business you need.
Absolutely. And guys, we're going to throw some questions at him and see how he can ebb and flow and fire back some answers. So a lot of the questions that I've been getting have been around fire, flood, and people's ability to get insurance after they've had a claim from either Florida, California, other states. So let's start with one that is more Arizona specific. So there's flood insurance that's here. And I always like to explain to buyers, there's a difference in required flood insurance where you're required to get it if you're getting financing versus just getting it for your protection. Is there a difference in cost of that or like different levels of policy coverage for flood insurance?
Great question. So when it comes to flood insurance, the state of Arizona is very unique with that. A lot of people moving here don't understand that we have floods. We're in a desert. It's kind of a foreign concept to most people. When the loans you're talking about requiring that's usually in most areas of South Phoenix or North Phoenix or even East Phoenix, some of the older projects where you don't have the water runoff like we do in the West Valley.
Right.
The state will require that if you're in a certain level flood zone. Most insurance agents will know those areas. It just depends on the area you're in or the community you're in and why you would be required to do it. Now, some lenders have different obligations with that if it's a little bit lower score than most areas just because they want that extra protection. The West Valley, we do have flood areas that we do need insurance policies on. Again, reach out to your insurance agent to find out if you are in that flood area. You can also go to the state of Arizona. It has a great flood watch website where you can type in your address and it'll tell you yes or no.
The FEMA website will have it.
FEMA is really good too. Yep. The great thing with the state of Arizona, we are very, very good at fire and at water. So if you have any questions on those two things, you can go straight to the state website and they'll tell you what class you're in and if it is required for that area.
Perfect. And one thing that I want to talk a little bit about is why we have these flood areas. So the way that it is here in the desert is a lot of times the water is not going to go down. So it kind of stays more surface level. And what happens when we have a storm is a lot of the water just starts to get overwhelmed up on the surface and it starts to follow all of the washes and will create flooding. And there's things called stupid motorist laws because people will try and drive their vehicle across these and they literally turn into rivers. And like Zach was saying is that you have areas that are older that the community wasn't developed with the proper drainage. And I've mentioned in a lot of my videos, and I'll mention it again, a lot of these really cute parks that you see in the communities are actually for flooding and drainage. So they will make sure that the streets are sloped and they go down toward, the water will go down towards these basins that are the park areas. So something to definitely keep in mind. If you like to hike, you like to go out of town and you're up in creeks, be careful because sometimes the water level will rise there and there's not a storm happening right there. It's happening further up. So what happens is that water is going to travel down. There's been very tragic accidents where people have lost their lives, whole groups of people hiking because they get trapped in these canyons when the water's coming down. So definitely be aware of your surroundings, be aware of where you are, especially in monsoon season, which is typically going to be between June and August. So there's my little public service announcement for the day. So let's go ahead and talk about another topic would be fire insurance. Especially it's on a lot of people's mind coming from California. They're moving here, and with seeing what happened in California, a lot of folks want to know, do I need fire insurance in Arizona?
Great question again. So the state of Arizona, we have what's called covered perils, just like any other state. So fire is a covered peril for most policies. The big thing you need to look at is if your dwelling policy or your homeowner's policy is a 1, 2, or 3. 1 is typically basic, 3 is the most coverage. Basic in the state of Arizona, and 2 and 3 will have fire coverage. Now there's some areas and some parts of the state, they may require additional fire coverage or different coverage. We don't cover any of those carriers. We don't really have those issues. Finding anything middle, central Arizona, northern Arizona is a lot hard. It's a lot harder to find coverage right now.
Right.
That is something that is very difficult. Yes.
Foresty areas.
We don't have the big fires like you would see in California and some of these other states right now. Our forest management's a little bit better, in my opinion, versus some of these other states, but it's still difficult to find coverage in those areas. Your traditional policy in anywhere in the Central Valley, you're going to have fire coverage. That's something you can ask your agent, hey, am I covered for fire? Yes, here, this is what it is. This is the policy you have, and you do have basic fire coverage.
Perfect. Okay. So just so that we're clear, is there a difference in fire coverage if there was a kitchen fire versus a brush fire that were to come and approach the house?
When it comes to the difference between the two, it would also depend on your policy. That would be a question for underwriting is, hey, is this coverage for this? Most of us in the valley are not going to have that issue where we're having a forest fire come in. The northern area of the country or the state will have those issues, and that's something that needs to be brought up with underwriting is, hey, if I do have a forest fire, am I covered in this spot? Now, when it comes to forest fires, you have to remember too that a lot of those, once they get a certain size, are now natural disasters. So your insurance will kick in, and then the state will kick in on the federal government on top of that. But that is a question you need to ask the certain carrier. It's not a yes and no, everybody has coverage. It all depends on what the coverage is in the area and what the insurance company wants. It's just like roof coverage. Not everybody has replacement costs. Sometimes it's payment schedule. So that's a question you need to ask your agent at the time, but most policies will cover the fire.
Okay, great. Another question that I have for you, because I've been asked this question, is if somebody doesn't have flood insurance and maybe during a heavy storm, different scenarios. I've actually had a client that had this happen where their neighbor had adjusted something in their lot, acreage, okay, and adjusted something, and this was in Peoria actually, and during one of the storms, it redirected all the water to their house, and it overcame all of their grading that they had because it was just too much water, and it flooded the inside of their house. They didn't have flood insurance because they weren't in a flood zone and they weren't in an area where they felt that they needed that. Would someone be covered in an instance like that?
That is another good question. That one is there's a lot of what ifs with that question.
Suing the neighbor.
Right? One would be subrogation against the neighbor. As the permits pulled, did the city allow things like that to happen, knowing that the water would now find the lowest point? Those are the questions. It's a tough yes or no. Now, do you have water coverage for water damage? Yes, that's something inside your house that causes that water damage, a leak, a water heater, stuff like that. Now, you can have additional endorsements for sewer drains that come up. If the sewer drains overflowed and comes up to your house, yes, you'd be covered under that. Most likely, you're going to have to fine tooth comb your policy and find out what's happening, and the insurance company is probably going to subrogate against the neighbor or the city for allowing something like that to happen. So that policy, that scenario, my suggestion would be looking at a flood policy to cover you in the long run.
Right.
Just so there's no headache on your end, because the flood policy would kick in, make the payments on it, get the house going, and then let the insurance company in the back end take care of everything else.
Okay, perfect. Now, and you may or may not be able to answer this without specific details of a home, but what would somebody be looking at paying for flood insurance? They're not in a FEMA designated flood zone, but they want to have that peace of mind and coverage. For example, me, I back to the mountain, and my upper part of my yard is higher. We have underground drainage that I paid to put in. Everything slopes out towards the front, but we've got all that taken care of. but I still worry in that one massive, massive storm, my house sits a little lower and I just worry about that. So, um, is there a way that you can give the viewers an idea of an average of like, okay, well, if this is the, you know, replacement value of your home, this is what it would be for flood insurance?
Yeah, so in the state, I would say in the last 4 to 5 months, most of the policies we've been quoting in between the $200 to $500 range. It just also
For
depends the area
annual?
for annual. It
Okay.
depends on exactly where you're at. I mean, if you're in an area, the West Valley, you're really less likely. If you're closer to the White Tanks, you're a lot less likely of a flood. There's still risk of that. I'm not saying there's zero, there's still risk,
Right.
but you're a lot less likelihood than if you're on the East Valley or in the north part of the valley, Cave Creek, stuff like that. So those policies are going to be a little bit cheaper depending on where you are. It's all geographically and what they see in all the flood lines. If there's a higher risk for a larger flood in this area, it's going to be a little more just because of the value of the home, stuff like that. So most of my policies it's not too bad annually to look at that. I mean, you're looking almost the same price as an umbrella policy at that point for that coverage. And that coverage will cover the dwelling and up to a certain level.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I just had some folks that purchased in Desert Hills, which is an area that it definitely has a lot of different floodplains, flood zones, and like you said, Cave Creek, parts of North Scottsdale. So you definitely want to make sure that during your due diligence, we provide our buyers with this buyer advisory document, and we always tell you, make sure that you go through this and you look up anything that's important to you. And there's something that we'll point out in the contract as well that says you need to get your insurance set up during your inspection period. What we used to have happen is people would wait until closing when the title company or their lender asks for their insurance company information, and then they go to do it and they realize they can't get insurance. And sometimes it's required, flood insurance to be required. And now they don't qualify for the loan because they have this additional cost with their flood insurance. So it's just this big old mess. Or we find out that they're not insurable because they've had issues with, like you said, multiple claims or issues on their policies. So it's important to make sure that you do your due diligence. And there's things that we can check for you as an agent to let you know if it's in one of these flood zones. And also there's plenty of sites, like Zach said, that you can go on and take a look and identify if your area is in a flood zone. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And if you want to reach out to Zach, I will have him give his information. He just got a new phone number, so he's going to pull out the phone number and read that off to you. And if you are looking to relocate to or within the Phoenix or surrounding areas, I would love to speak with you and have a discovery call, find out what it is that you're looking for, and we can really come up with a game plan for you on timing and help identify some communities that might be a good fit for you. So Zach, go ahead and provide your information for the viewers.
So yeah, my phone number is, my direct line is 480-267-1268.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And guys, you can go on the ArizonaLivingGroup.com website, hit contact us. That will put you in contact with me. You can also call or text. That's a great way to reach me as well. And put some feedback in the comments here. I would love to know if there's more questions that you have for Zach. Should we bring him back for another video? Maybe you are wanting to know about communities. Maybe you're wanting me to do a video on a specific community, or again, different videos with Zach. So please feel free, reach out. Would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for watching. Take care.